This is the March 9th, 2023 Planning Board session. Calling it to order. In the absence of the secretary, I'll take the roll call. Vice Chair Dennis?
Present.
Gloria and Burke, Secretary absent. Craig Catanolato?
Present.
George Mutu?
Present.
Tom Neely?
Present.
Kate Fulham?
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Can we please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have approved minutes for February 23rd. So can I have a motion? Motion by Craig, second
I'll
by
second.
Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay. So we're going to start with Anthony, yes?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through my stuff first, is that okay, you are?
Well, let's see.
Okay.
I don't like to jump around.
The, first one is Rothman Dynasty. This was Jackie's, if you recall. This is a two-lot subdivision.
Pull that mic down, please.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. It's a two-lot subdivision of a property in the CR 80 zoning district. It's also in the Ag Overlay District in the New York State Archaeological Sensitive Area. In Watermill, the board, this was again Jackie's, the board might recall this one required both a covenant amendment to allow for the further subdivision of this lot because a prior subdivision had such covenant, and then ultimately a two-lot cluster plan with the two lots on the front, one existing residence and a proposed new residence, and then along with the necessary wetlands buffers, and then a big chunk of the property being preserved as open space. If the board might recall, they requested a cluster plan here. I was reviewing the pre-app report. What the pre-app report said at the time was the planning board would only consider the covenant amendment at the time of final application, provided the applicant came in with a cluster plan. So, so that's what we're here for today, is just for the covenant amendment. Because this is a type 1 action, it's in the Ag Overlay District, we had to coordinate with the other agencies. So we can't proceed with doing the secret yet on that, but we can proceed with the covenant amendment. So
Okay.
that's what the resolution, which should be, everything starts on page 10 in the packet for Rothman Dynasty.
So just read us the covenant amendment.
Okay, so, and you'll see on page 1 of the covenant amendment, I grayed out, I just wanted to note the date of the filing of the original covenant, so I gotta add that in there. But basically, if you look on the bottom of page 1 of the resolution, we're acknowledging that this is a cluster plan and that the wetlands area and some upland areas are going to be preserved, which is a positive, including the entirety of the wetlands. Again, we're going to establish conservation easements and buffers as required under 325 of the town code, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffers as well. And then at the end result, we're getting one more single-family residence set here. So on balance, it wasn't a complicated, covenant amendment. So I have the resolution here to approve the covenant amendment for Lot 1 of the subdivision map number 1031, approved on May 26, 1988. To eliminate the no further subdivision restriction for Lot 1, subject to the following conditions. 1, submission of an amended declaration, covenant and restrictions reflecting this change. 2, submission of the title certification, submission of a mortgage consent if applicable, approval of the legal documents by the town attorney's office prior to filing, and then the filing of the amended covenants and restrictions at the county clerk, and then submission of a recorded copy to the planning department.
Anthony, do you think you should have more detail in any of these in terms of distances, sizes?
In terms of, well, this is just a covenant amendment to allow for the.
So you'll have those
That won't be
details
So
in
we
the
do the
next.
subdivision, well, remember, what happens is during the subdivision, we will be doing the wetlands permit as well. So
Okay.
there'll be covenants related to the wetland setbacks and buffers at that
Okay.
structure.
Am I gonna have to, though, approve the covenant before that happens?
Yeah, but this is what this is for. This is just a covenant amendment to allow the lot to be subdivided.
Okay. I don't want to be in a position where I need the buffer size and da-da-da, and I'm not going to be able to do that.
We do that on the
And we don't need it here. This
No.
is simply to
This is simply
amend
to amend
the
it.
covenant. Okay, so we need a supermajority vote.
Definitely.
And,
You can if you want to. Go ahead.
yes,
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning. I know that a lot of the board members are new from when we went over all of this. So Jackie Fenlon was our planner when we began this, and Jackie's no longer here, so now Anthony's taken over. And I see really only two of you were on the board when we were going through the public hearings about all of this during the pre-app. So there's a lot of new faces, including Christine. So I just wanted to just say that we've gone through a lot of back and forth with this, with the town under different circumstances to get to where we are. I did submit a final application, and when I gave it to Anthony, Anthony had said that we should do this covenant amendment before we go into the actual final application process. But the map that I submitted should be what was required when we last spoke about the subdivision. This is for a family, basically, that they are doing this for, as a compound for their family. You might remember it.
Do.
Council, do you think we should have any further description of this one lot that's being,
No, if they're going to
Developed?
follow it up, then I'm okay
Then
with
you're
that. I
okay.
just
All
don't want
right.
to have
The-
to,
You're
you
okay.
can't
I'm
approve
okay.
language that hasn't
The
been set.
subdivision was the Watermill Land Corps subdivision originally, and that's what this was, lot one of the Watermill Land Corps subdivision. I think the map was 1031 was the map number that it was filed under.
okay,
Daphne, just alert your client that it's easier to take the fence down before the vegetation comes in. It's coming down.
Okay.
They know it. We'll be here in August and, we can't get back there.
they have a fence up there.
Well, and
If I drive by that.
just a
30 years.
question, we're amending the covenant, approval of a covenant amendment, which proposes a two-lot subdivision. So it's not like they could come back at a later juncture and request more than two lots. It's,
There'll be another covenant when we do this subdivision.
Right.
That will
It's-
impose, a no further subdivision.
This is for the covenant from the original subdivision that this lot is a part of, so that we can legally come in to request our current two-lot subdivision. We can't proceed with our final application technically until we amend the original covenant saying we can't further subdivide.
makes
And the
sense.
name of that
Thank you.
original subdivision?
Watermill Land Corps. It was from, I think, 1982
88, I think.
or something like
Yeah.
that. It was in the 80s.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we need a supermajority vote on this to amend the covenant, so
I'll move it.
all moved by Dennis,
I'll second.
seconded by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your effort.
Number 2, Evergreen Field Estates. We're actually just gonna do an extension of the action deadline. I spoke with Randy today, I'm gonna be meeting with him and the surveyor next week to see if I could get some clarification on some of these maps that seem confusing. So we'll just do an extension of the action deadline for this one until March 23rd.
So this was an action deadline?
Yes.
Okay, because that doesn't say it, Anthony. You know, one of our bullets,
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Action. Let me
the new
write-
system, right?
get
Okay,
that.
motion
Motion?
by Craig, second by
Second.
Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Claire has CVS.
I think CVS is off.
I think that's off the
She-
agenda.
That's off.
CVS, oh, that's right, it's off, okay. So, Pasanelli, is Claire here? If she's not, Anthony, then you can move on to Hampton 6 Realty
Okay,
Corp.
Hampton 6, let me just get to that. So the board knows this site in Hampton Bays, the market there. Everybody knows the market. We're They're expanding into where Liggett's Pharmacy was previously. We had previously deemed this application complete for two reasons. Number one, so we could do the secret, and number two, waiting for the engineer who asked for additional information. And they submitted that information, and Tom signed off and said, that was done. So today we're doing, really, it's just the secret, and then actually it's not in here, but we could deem the application complete then and schedule a hearing. Again, this is to expand the existing market into some previous retail space, the pharmacy. The big thing with this application, as the board knows, is we're going to get the cross-access with the town site over here, and sort of deal with the circulation and pattern of circulation, within this area, all part of the town's Hampton Bays corridor study to address traffic circulation and connectivity, and to address Good Ground Road. So that's what the big thing with this application was. And you might recall when we did an administrative on this, probably before some of the other board members here. At that time, we advised the applicant when they did some minor landscaping stuff here, the first expansion, that anything happens further with this property, we're implementing the cross-access. And at the time that we did the administrative previously, we got the cross-access agreement taken care of. So
The other big thing about this is, as you know, it's one of the only two sites that still allow the egress out to Montauk Highway, the other being the Chase Bank right next door. It's actually right in the aerial. So after this application, it'll only be Chase.
yeah, that's right. And we are getting, by the way, a cross-access up here too. Mostly because, we asked for it, and you never know how properties are going to develop or redevelop in the future. So, and by the way, we still have to get all the engineers' comments. So there'll be probably more map changes like we normally do as part of the approval.
So it's going to be coordinated with the town parcel, so that parking lot's.
And the
gonna be-
town had the survey for that piece done.
Okay, so it's already.
So it's all in the works
It's in the
now.
works.
Yeah,
That parking on the east side I think that's diagonal, right?
over here.
Yes. Which
Oh,
is
yeah.
sort of, that's gonna have to be reconfigured because that pushes the traffic out to Montauk Highway,
Yeah.
where we want, if anything, we want the angle
Coming this way.
either the other
The
direction or
opposite way.
straight in.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That's
it
exactly
show on the
correct.
site plan that it's?
No, but that was part of,
so-
they didn't show that on there, but as we do the discussions and when we make the changes to address the cross-access, because again, town just had the survey done, so now, there's obviously gonna be some changes. We will require, any, map changes as part of a condition of approval, that the parking spaces, however they need to be done, whether it's perpendicular or angled on the other way.
And why would you, do you have a cross-access plan for this property, for the properties, including Chase? Because if we don't, I suggest we get one done, because you might want to make a cross-access in the rear of that building.
Absolutely. And I've already thought about that, and we could absolutely 100%, regardless, establish it. And actually, now that you say it, we will require it as part of the approval, the map, the final map that gets approved will show it. Even if it doesn't fit there right now. This
Right.
building could come down, so,
Just important to note though, right where your cursor is, Anthony.
okay.
Is actually a ramped, it's not level.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, where the,
Oh,
where the
right.
tractor trailers
Yeah,
are
there's a
parking.
loading
Oh, yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
matter.
right back.
It's
Oh, you're
not
right.
great.
Now that I remember.
And the
yeah.
other side of that is the fenced-in post office secured parking lot. So our option's gonna be limited on the south side there. Just heads up.
But we
But
can,
you can-
we can
yeah.
reconfigure that parking completely, right?
We can reconfigure, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as linking, you can see where the loading bays is
Yeah,
on,
on the back.
on the back. That's actually, if you can
Goes
picture a
down.
ramp down where trucks park in to unload. So that's gonna be a challenge. And the post
Yeah.
office, good luck.
It's important that we look at the properties together now that we have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that
absolutely.
was it. When they first, first met with us, that's what we said. And then they did. They revised the plans to show the.
Do you have the plan up there?
Oh, by the way, I just got a street view there, so you can sort of get a sense of what we got going on there. Yep.
See, so they have that diagonal parking there.
Yeah, and this will change, as
Yeah.
Dennis was saying. because we don't want them to go that way, as you were saying. So we will obviously fix that as part of this process, and they are showing the,
It'll be the big red sign with the X through it.
Right.
yeah.
And they show the loading dock down on that?
Yep, right down here. With the curbing, yep.
Okay.
So I had sent the board the,
Can you tell us what page that is in the packet?
oh, sure, sorry.
9.
39.
39.
And then,
Yeah, I wasn't able to open that file. I think it was too big. Did anybody else have an issue with it? The file
There was
size?
several, you sent along several, did you not?
yeah, the original packet had everything in there, and then I sent the board just a separate PDF of just my stuff.
Okay, so this is
Try to,
the secret review.
yep. So I also in the packet there, so I did the part 2 and the part 3. Real simply, on the part 2, since this is a fully developed commercial property, didn't identify any issues other than transportation and traffic impacts. That was the one that I focused on. There would be no other impact to any of the other items on this property. Again, it's a fully developed commercial piece.
And parking falls under,
And parking and transportation all under there. So in terms of the part 3, obviously I'm recommending a neg deck, and this is based on the fact that, number one, the parking requirement doesn't change as a result of this, because it's going from retail to retail. And since we're not going to get more parking, we'll address what we can through the implementation of the cross-access in the town's long-range plan. That's what we're doing here. So I think that's a good thing. I think that will help with the traffic circulation. And then there were no other potential impacts.
But where is your traffic? So where is it on this?
Oh, okay, the part 3, yeah. Part 3,
There's nothing on,
it didn't come through.
Animals, ag resources.
there's no category on this secret thing for traffic and parking?
Yeah, there is,
Yeah.
which is,
Page
one I said that's
50 in the
one.
packet, it's on the top left.
Number
Oh.
13.
Transportation, right?
Page 8,
Oh, okay,
page 8.
yeah, transportation, see it,
Transportation, hold on.
okay. And then your explanation for it is?
Is in the part 3. That's how the secret works, you do the
Yeah,
part 2.
I know.
Yeah.
Page 53.
Page 53.
So I note in the part 3, I say that the proposed expansion of the market will generate additional traffic. However, the impacts are not expected to be large. By providing a cross-access easement and a shared parking with the town-owned parking lot to the east and a future cross-access with the parcel to the west, any potential impacts will be effectively mitigated. I'm saying the site plan is implemented in the town's long-range planning policies to address traffic and pedestrian issues in the downtown Hampton Bays area. The expansion of the market is occurring within space formerly used as a pharmacy retail use. Accordingly, I gotta fix the spelling there. Parking requirements for both uses are the same, and thus no additional parking is required. Since the site cannot provide additional parking, absent potentially redesigning the site with an entirely new building, the best way to address traffic and parking concerns is through the implementation of the cross-access agreements as proposed. And then I just say the property is served by existing utilities, and there were no other significant impacts that would needed to be addressed. So with that, I was recommending that the planning board issue a neg deck, or a negative declaration, sorry for that.
so Anthony, we will have an opportunity, or the applicant will have an opportunity to talk about those 2 parallel exit driveways.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to say what's going to happen there.
Right.
Yeah, and the applicant knows, they've been very willing to do with whatever, the town says, but that's going to come. What's going to happen is, because now we're going to deem the application complete, we could now resend it to the engineer, and everybody now will do, and that's what happens. We get the review, and then we make the map changes to address the various comments, including from the town engineer. And I spoke to Janice today about this. We're meeting next week to go over the details.
Okay.
Okay, so we need a motion to adopt the negative declaration. Motion by Craig, second
Second.
by
George.
George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then the second action would be to deem the application complete and schedule the hearing for April 13th.
Motion.
Okay, motion by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
I think just the applicant's representative is here, just like to go to the podium and ask the board a question or two.
I want to thank everyone for your active participation. This is a very important lot, and the applicant owner has taken all the measures, including a parking and consulting analysis, to make sure that, and in addition to willing to put a security guard to make sure that traffic is completely controlled and that we're able to keep the traffic moving on the Montauk Highway. Additionally, we're asking for permission to move to the Department of Building permitting section because we can't even apply because it's gonna take a while and we'll still have, it'll be way after the public hearing session to be able to obtain our permits anyway, but we'd like to move along because summer's coming and it's an eyesore. The closed space, I don't think will be finished, but at least the applications will be in and we'll be able to start some kind of interior renovation in a timely fashion.
So we're scheduled, we can't move it until we have this public hearing process, right?
Well,
April-
applicants come to the board a lot of times. We're in the middle of a site plan to see what they can and can't do during the process. The applicant was asking this board if they could proceed with at least applying for a building permit for interior renovations. As interior renovations in and of themselves don't require site plan approval. We deal with the exterior changes. If space isn't changing, the nature of the use isn't changing interior, then it's typically then wouldn't go to planning. What I would say for the planning board, and I discussed this with Aurelia, and she's happy to ask, what I would say is maybe wait until after the public hearing. Let's make sure that there's no widespread public outrage or anything before the planning board says go ahead. The application with the building department is going to languish for a while. To be quite honest, they're really backlogged. So my guess is we'll be much further along than this by the time they even look at it. But I would probably do it like you normally would do, at least after a public hearing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I'll
So
get
that's
the board.
coming right up, April 13th. So,
April 13th?
Yeah, after that.
Can you tell us what is going to be, who's operating the market, the new market?
Oh, it's the Nunez family. I think they've been there for over 20 years now
You said the
at that
new-
location. The Nunez family owned the market, the smaller market, and now they're expanding. They purchased Liggett's to just expand the space because if you've been inside, it's really congested and the needs of the Hampton Bay community have changed. So he has taken on the task of not only expanding, obviously it's good for business, whatever, but we wanted to be able to offer a more diverse product selection and everything's on top of each other and it's a really old building. This was previously the larger section, I guess for all of you, I'm new to this town, but this whole section was a whole supermarket before Leggett's even took that space.
It was an
So-
A&P at one point. The whole
A&P,
building
yeah.
was an A&P.
Yeah, and it was an A&P, and obviously A&P went out of business, but now this market has changed. We're trying to make it for American and Latin American products, but also we want to be servicing, we had a basketball player in there last summer. We want a diverse product market to come in because they get off the clients get off at the train, and we want them to be able to purchase there, either get on the train or take their cars and be able to buy at the market and keep the market active and busy. The reason we're only asking to put in the application in the Department of Buildings. It's not even going to be seen for, 2 or 3 months, and we'll long be past our public hearing. That's the only permission we're asking for because it just takes so much time. It would be by the April session, we'll already be at least 15, 16 days down on the application. It won't even be viewed. So that's the only permission we were asking this board to consider because it's been a while. This renovation has taken us quite a bit, and we asked for special consideration. And we're not saying that. And we're also taking up a beautification project on the external. We're requesting to plant trees, and I know the town has asked us to take on, maybe make it look a little bit more the way the Hamptons should look. So the applicant's willing to do that, and we really have been working hand in hand with city planning. We're only asking for that because it's summer's coming and everything's gonna slow
No,
down.
I realize that, but we certainly have a process that we have to
Yes,
follow.
I
So we
understand.
need to have the public hearing
Sure.
before. So
Okay.
can you also give us your name, please, for the
Aurelia
record?
Tavares, I'm the representative on this application. I'm working with Pablo Rodriguez from Calvary Engineering. He's our engineer on this project, and we were working with Harris Beach and Jack Martins, well, now he's senator, but Jack Martins started this application for us, and we're working with the law firm now that continues that application.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very
Could you
much.
speak
Thank
to
you.
the nature just briefly about the interior renovations and kind of the vision for the space?
It's going to be actually spectacular. There's going to be a health food section where people can get drinks, you know, fresh squeezed market products from the local merchants, because we purchase locally as well. There's going to be the racks, it's only increase in racks and rows so that we can, because when you go, things are falling on your head. You pick an item up, there's just no room. And as you can see, we have food, so the food section is going to be expanded so people can purchase food rather than go home and having to cook it. We don't have delivery or anything like that. We're not ready for that yet, but people do come in and purchase food to go and things of that nature. It's going to be lovely, the renovations, and there's going to be a section where the vegetables and the fruit are going to be displayed where they auto, where you hit a button and they spray themselves. So it's going to be getting healthy, active products. It's more like what is expected of the town and the changes that the town is requesting. And then as outside, we want to put some lighting, Christmas, but also we want to put some foliage to make it look more like a community market.
Good,
thank you.
What's the change in square footage from your
I think
current
it's going
market
from,
to?
it's going, I gotta look at the numbers because the maps have changed, so I got that, it's going up to 12,000 square feet, from
How-
7,500
how much
or
is-
something like that.
I thought it was, it's going up, we're 5,000 more square footage, up, if that's the word.
Yeah, from
Square feet.
7,500 to 12 and change, I think is.
Yeah, it's exactly the way the supermarket used to be in terms of square footage, so for your reference.
Is that correct on here? So from 5,000
No,
square feet
that was,
to
that was
an
copy and
additional
pasted from the wrong, yeah.
7,500,
That-
right?
that's what- I
And are
realized
you
that, yeah.
permitted under Suffolk County Health Department or Department of Ag and Markets?
We applied for
Both?
the we already have a permit for the supermarket at large,
Right.
and we applied for the expansion with the Department
The
of Health.
Suffolk County Health?
Yes,
That's great.
correct.
It's all delicious in there. It's good. It's a great
We just-
place.
You
It's gonna be
mentioned
even better.
an on-site security guard.
We were seeing that people from outside were coming in and parking and parking in the lot, creating more
Well,
congestion for the lot, so we don't want that.
Yeah,
Well, no, it's just voluntary. He just
I'm
wanted to
not
make
sure
sure
why.
that traffic flowed in and out. So if you know, so that, just so you know, we had addressed that issue to make sure that they're free
You know,
flow
the,
traffic.
the purpose of the traffic circulation is not to stop people from moving from one site to the other. So
Mhm.
just be aware that it's gonna be a shared parking agreement. That's the way this
absolutely.
works. So I just wanna be,
Yeah.
we typically don't have guards on site telling people they can and can't park on a.
No, it was to keep them moving so that we don't
Well-
congest the highway. So we don't want
It's
to
a
block it
congested-
up, you
It's a
know?
congested lot.
Yeah,
It is
you're right.
very
So we don't want
congested.
people like double parked, and we want them to keep
Yeah.
moving. It wasn't to block traffic movement.
All right, good, because Anthony just addressed part B of my question.
Okay, thank you. We've already taken a vote. I didn't realize a representative was here for the application, otherwise I wouldn't have called for a vote. We've
Oh.
already voted.
Oh, thank you for being so gracious. I
Yeah,
appreciate everyone.
thank you.
Well, we voted on the right thing. She was asking for the
Something else.
permission to
File.
file a
Oh, to-
building permit.
okay.
You said no to
Okay.
that, so.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
No problem. Number 7, Hampton's Pond Quag is off the agenda. Number 8 is Canal Southampton Battery Storage. The board might recall, this is the battery storage proposal. Over here, you got North Road, Sunrise Highway, and then there's the LIPA substation to the east. This is one we've looked at, we did a pre-submission on this, and we got a formal application that was submitted. We deemed the application incomplete. We did the secret review. The board might recall we started off the secret review. The board wasn't comfortable with the analysis at that time. We had the applicant go back, provide additional information. We came back to the planning board and went through all the additional information and changes, and then issued a negative declaration. And then I was waiting for the engineer to review this to make sure that they addressed all of Tom's items, which I got the memo from him that they did. So now we're at a point where we could deem the site plan application complete. And
Did we get a recommendation from the fire department?
we will when, remember, this is a completeness review. No referrals go out until the application's deemed complete. So the completeness review is the SECRA, the planning staff's review, which obviously we did, and the town engineer's review. And so now the town engineer did his review, said everything's complete. Now we'll send out all the referrals, and then we'll get them all back. And you're right, I'll be curious to see what fire prevention and fire district comes back with.
So deeming complete, the clock starts, right?
We're deeming it complete, yeah, we're gonna, well, we're deeming it, the clock will really start after the public hearing.
Well, this is moving along, right? Is someone here for this application?
I believe maybe by Zoom.
Yes, they're coming in.
For that.
Hi, can you give us your name, please, and affiliation?
Good afternoon, this is custody principal at Blackman.
I'm sorry, you'll have to speak slower and clearer. We didn't get that.
Getting echoes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
This is custody, yes. This is custody with Rhineland Energy, they're the developer for the Canal Southampton battery storage facility.
Ryland Energy.
Okay.
And this is John O'Hara. I am the lead project developer on the project with Rhineland Energy.
Okay, welcome. Anthony, do you want to go over anything before they have any comments?
But no, this was just, I mean, it's a completeness. We deemed the application incomplete months ago, pending the SEQRA review, which is complete, and pending the town engineer's review is complete. I don't have anything else to add to that at this stage of the game.
Okay, this is a draft, so you have any other changes on this?
No, other than the date for the hearing would be April 27th. I might have said April 13th in there, but we're going to have too many for that night, so I need to. So my recommendation is to deem the application complete and then schedule the hearing for April 27th.
How many do we have on for the 13th?
4 or 5,
Yeah.
which includes the ones from today, so I was just,
Oh,
trying to.
Yes,
Okay.
anticipating. Are there any questions on the board on this application? This is the underground connection to a substation, right?
Yes, everything was underground from the beginning.
I think we all had questions about the technology itself, more so than
Right.
than the application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are there
Yep.
recommendations of, that we know of or that you guys know of citing these close to residences? It looks like there are multiple cottages there. Do you have other examples of projects where you've cited them there?
Well, the cottages are coming
Oh,
down.
no. Oh, they're coming down.
The cottages
Okay.
on these property are coming down. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
They're demoing all that. And then, Kate, and then you'll see that immediately adjacent to, that's the Suffolk County DPW yard right there.
Right, okay. Great, thank you.
I
That's
think
more
we'll
clear.
have I think we'll
Wait
have
a
a
second, I
larger,
didn't catch that the first time around as I
we'll
was
have a
reading that.
larger discussion about
Thank
this
you.
at another point. But this application has moved along, so it's in the hopper. Any other questions?
I'll move to deem complete.
Motion by Dennis to deem it complete. You want it in one or two resolutions?
No, we usually deem complete and schedule the hearing in the same resolution.
Schedule the hearing for April 27th. Motion by Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, so it's confirmed for April 27th.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
6
Thank
PM.
you.
Thank you very much.
Number 9, Howard Irrevocable Trust. Board, remember this one? This is the one on Noyak Road, across from Cromer's, basically. No, is it off? No, that's another one, I'm sorry. This is Noyak Road, this is the existing retail,
Yes,
and then
yes.
with the apartment in the back, and then
Right.
trying to legalize the second apartment on
The
the garage.
back there.
We're actually just doing an extension of the action deadline here until March 23rd.
Action deadline, okay.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Just so you know, Jackie, number 15 is off the agenda. And actually, number 17 is off the agenda as well.
15, 17 off. So
And let
that,
me, if I, yeah, if I,
that takes you to one more, right? North McGee Street?
well, one more
No.
before that, actually.
Struggle. Oh, no,
No.
200.
Oh, wait, yeah, you might be right, hold on.
200 North McGee
200
Street, number
200 North McGee
16.
Street. Yep, yep,
Can you
yep.
give us the reference in the packet, please? What page?
Yep. 200 North McGee Street is, bear with me, 104. This is another one that I had taken over. This is a two-lot subdivision in the R40 zoning district on North McGee Street in Tuckahoe. It's got existing structures on there. The board might remember, you did a pre-application on this with Matt. It's a two-lot. All the structures here are CO'd. The one structure in the back here would be become the second residence. There's an existing residence here. Garage and accessory structures that are all permitted by CO. There'll be a common driveway that'll serve the lots. Actually, I think it's going to serve this lot here as well. We deemed it incomplete previously because it's in the archaeological sensitive area, and I wasn't sure how it was addressed, but the board required it, and the applicant actually had it done. So that was the missing piece on this one. So now we could deem the application complete and schedule the hearing. This was one that I was going to schedule for April 13th.
Okay, can I just ask you, what's all the lines on the other?
All this?
Let's preserve.
That's all preserved land. I always like to show what's, adjacent. And this is actually county land here. This is
That's county?
yeah.
And
it's-
where is the proposed pool and the corner property in relation to this? Can you pull out on that map on McGee?
No, this is one that I generated.
This is
No, this is on
This
the
is
north,
north of
On the other
39.
side,
on the other side of the
Right.
highway.
Yes.
by the
Yeah,
school side?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was not aware that they actually did the archaeological. So they did submit it, and so I would recommend deeming it complete.
Okay, motion to deem it complete and set a public hearing for April 13th by
Motion.
Kate,
Second.
second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent.
And Frith, we removed. But I would say all the information that was forwarded to you, I'm going to resend it because there's a lot going on with that piece. So that's why I pulled it.
This is Struggle?
Strebel and Klein.
Page 115.
115, page
115.
Oh. 113.
This was an application that we did a pre-submission conference for. It's actually just a site plan application, not special exception. This is the property on Mill Road, right near the post office in West Hampton, and then the 7-Eleven is at the corner here. This piece had an American Legion hall on there at one point, and they're proposing just a 3,000 square foot office building with associated parking. Pretty straightforward. This was before the zoning board, only because I think there were one parking space short, and they needed relief, a transition yard relief because hold on. This property next to it is a residentially zoned property. So when you have commercial next to residential, you typically have to provide a transition yard. Here they're showing the driveway to go there, but this is town-owned land, so there are no residences going up there. So that's why the planning board went with this design in that direction. I just wanted to remind the board.
It's a vacant parcel?
It's vacant now. The American Legion was on there at one point. But this is incomplete. The engineer gave a lot of things they need, so we would just deem this incomplete.
Okay, motion to deem this
Motion.
incomplete by Dennis, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent.
Now,
Claire? Is Claire here?
play it like that.
And if you just give us the page reference in the packet, it would be helpful.
Sure.
So,
I've got a list.
okay, so Kristen, when you do the agendas for us, just give us the packet number, the page number. So Pasanelli is your first one, Claire?
Yeah, and I don't have anything in the packet, so I'm gonna pass it out to you. There's a letter that the applicant represented, he gave this application.
Can you move a little closer?
Yep.
Here.
You don't mind passing the letter down?
Sure.
I'm gonna give a little overview, and should we have them come up to the dais?
Where are they? Over here. Well, why don't you give an overview
Okay.
first?
So, I'm just gonna show you the site, just a reminder, show you the site plan. So this was, an approval granted not too long ago, for a farm use on the property. And with the review, the planning board instituted a secret review that included a condition deck with 5 conditions. One of the conditions was the establishment of buffers, a 25-foot buffer on one side and a 100-foot buffer from some residences on the east side. And the applicant, upon consideration of that, is requesting with this letter that the buffers be able to be sunsetted if the farm use is no longer a part of the application. So that's ultimately their request here, but you may have some questions for them. They probably want to make their case, so I was going to invite
can come
you
up.
to come up. Okay?
Sure. Welcome.
Hi, good to see you.
Hi. So just identify yourself for the record, please. Right.
So we're ready to move forward and actually get the plow farm planting for the season. So one of the reasons we're here, to get permission to allow us to start planting. We don't want to lose another season. But in addition to that, in the event that we don't use this in the future as an agricultural use, we want to revert it back to what it was prior. We have buffers. There's, in the restricted covenants, the flagpole can no longer be used. So there's 3 things in the restricted covenants there that are specific to this agricultural use, which is fine. We can accept all that, and we'll put it in restricted covenants. But in the event that we don't use it in the future for agricultural use, we want the restricted covenants to sunset. And that letter reflects it.
Can you give an example of the kind of use that you would want if you were not doing an agricultural use?
Well, it's an R40 zone, so I have no idea. We have no discussion of what we're going to use it in the future for.
We don't have any plans.
Right.
But I think, like we said, we've had this property in our family for like 75 years, and things change, and maybe, I've spent a lot of time out there on this project now, and I really like it out there. Maybe I'd like to build a house there. You know, it's just something that we totally accept the restrictive covenants while the property is in agricultural production. It's just afterwards, I don't want to be restricted in things that I may want to do in the future.
How long a lease do you have with the farmer who's coming in?
It's a 5-year lease.
It's a 5-year lease.
Yeah.
Claire, can you
These,
show the buffers?
the buffers, sure.
Yeah.
These are the conditions related to it, so I just wanted to bring that up. So the buffers are here. Let me just make it a little larger for you. So this is kind of turned around. Let me rotate the view a little bit better.
Like we've seen it before with the junkyards in the front, right?
Right, the junkyard is to the south here,
Right.
and then this is to the east, and this is to the north, and this is the flag lot, which is part of the restriction.
Right, so we have a buffer between,
The residents.
The residences to the east and
Right.
to the north, which is not,
It's a farm.
it's a farm
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
north,
the
yeah.
shop and farm.
And we've
so that's the buffer that you would want sunsetted if you develop the parcel?
Well, we just want to be able to come back to the planning board and submit an application for whatever it is for, and the buffers will be determined at that point. I mean, maybe the 100-foot buffer is not needed, or a smaller buffer, or maybe a larger buffer based upon what we plan, whoever plans it in the future. So, you know,
So it
So how would
defaults
we-
back to residential
yes,
use. if
Yeah.
right.
You,
How
No
would we
longer farm.
handle a condition neg deck? We'd have to amend it, or?
I would say that we would have to amend it to
Yeah.
include the language, though I don't think it's very far off the mark. It is the use that is generating these buffers at this
buffers.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
So then we wouldn't want to put the buffer as a covenant, we want to put it as a condition, site plan condition, right?
You could do that, that would be another way to do it.
Because that way it wouldn't be locked into the
Right.
land.
That's
You would
right.
sort of link it to your use,
Sure.
because it's part of the site plan.
And also,
That's probably a cleaner way to do it.
I think it's a cleaner way to do it.
Easier way,
Because if you have a
easier.
covenant, I mean, we just did a covenant amendment, we do, but it's sort of an extra hurdle that you'd have to go through.
Right.
You know, so it's easier.
and there's three of the covenants, the flagpole, not using the flagpole, which may have to be used in the future for access to the property coming off Old Country Road. That's the only access you have to the south, over the Long Island Railroad. So that makes the property unusable if you don't have the flagpole on a residential zone.
Right, I wouldn't take that away from a covenant. I wouldn't make that a condition.
Which flagpole?
The flagpole.
The one coming in
The
from
old
the
country.
road.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there like a
The
no
Zuma.
access covenant on that already or
No,
something? or-
no, that flagpole, the property goes all the way up, if you can show
Up
up
to
to
South
South
Country.
Country Road.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What was
Oh,
our
Old Country.
language, Claire, on that?
Well, right now, it's blocked by the buffer.
Right now, it's blocked by the 25-foot buffer established through a covenant, yeah. But it also was a condition, so 2 was the buffers filed through covenant, and then
5 said no
5
access,
was
right.
the no access along
No
Old
access.
Country Road, which was not a covenant, but a condition of the
A
approval.
condition of the
Yeah.
neg deck.
And
So
at
what
that time,
Dennis
you
is
said that you
saying,
didn't want
The
to
buffers would be part of
Well, for
that.
this
It would-
purpose, we don't. There's no reason for us for agricultural use to do it. But if we do, again, like we said, in the future, decide to do something else on the property, we would like to have the option. And of course, whatever we plan, we'll go through the necessary procedure, the application, and seek your approval for it. We're just looking ahead.
Can that be written in now, or would that be subject to a covenant amendment later if they wanted to revert back to the original zoning and do residential?
Well, I mean, I think the sentiment is not to do it as a covenant,
Right.
to do it as a condition.
Condition of the site
condition.
Of the
plan.
site plan.
All
Of
these
the site
covenants you
plan.
have, if we could- conditions of the site plan, that's
Yeah.
acceptable to us.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you restrict the covenants is what's not acceptable to us. So if we can do that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, but the process that we used and passed was a conditional neg deck. So a conditional neg deck usually has conditions on it,
Mhm.
and those were the 5 conditions. So I'm just not quite sure what mechanism we use.
Right.
Council might advise us on this, how we do this.
It would be an amendment to the
Amendment to the-
secra, and then amendment to your approval. There would be 2-step. But with the secra, because it's conditioned to neg deck,
Yeah,
we'd have to coordinate
yeah,
and then reissue it, and then file it, and then
right.
do the amendment. So it would be a couple-month process.
Yeah, so
at least.
procedurally, it's.
Takes a little time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and the whole purpose of the covenant, I mean, you've just seen that we amended a covenant for a good reason. The whole reason to put that into place is because you can't predict the future, right?
Mhm.
So like right now, this makes sense, and in the future, a supermajority of the board would have to consider your proposal at that snapshot moment. So, I mean, in that regard, let me know if I'm analyzing this correctly, but that you'd have a mechanism in the future if you, once you did figure out at that snapshot moment what you wanted to do, to bring that before whatever board is here at that time under those conditions and say, could we amend the covenant because this makes sense now?
Right, but you seem like all reasonable people on the board. There may be a board that's unreasonable, and you have to restrict the covenant on the property, and at that point, there's nothing we can do about it, and the board, you can't get a supermajority. So in addition to all the other hurdles on the site plan, you've got this restricted covenant.
Right,
So-
but that's how like we ended up in the position where we are with the zoning that we are, because you can't predict the future. That's why you say
Right.
like, this is the rule now, because this is what we're experiencing now.
Right.
And then, I don't imagine that there would be an unreasonable board, it's just
Well.
people that, you know. Well,
But if you put it
Neither
on,
here nor
on
there,
the site
but-
plan, I think that's, that's acceptable for this type of agricultural use. We're not building anything on the site, so it's not you have to reverse something that was there. So there's nothing being built, it's just an agricultural use. If it's on a site plan, we fulfill the obligation of the site plan, and if and when we decide to do something else, we'll, of course, come to the
Yeah.
planning board and
No.
submit it.
your position is clear, it's
Mm-hmm.
rational. Question is, how do we do it?
Okay, well,
You know,
that-
because we
that's-
don't often have conditional neg decks. It's unusual for us to issue conditional neg decks. So I just want to be sure that we,
But the law allows for it, right?
well,
Law,
conditional neg
yes.
decks, yes, they don't recommend them, but they exist.
Because here you have an instance of a non-residential use taking place in a residential zone. We're doing a non-residential site plan in a residential zone, so it's almost, it's running counter to the underlying zone. Not counter, but it's not, you know, it's not on what you would typically find in a residential zone. That's why it may be appropriate to do the conditional neg deck.
Or as an alternative, would you want to say if a proposal comes in for a residential use that's permitted, whether it's a subdivision or something, then that, like that language be written in the covenants, so there's some guidance to a future
Yes,
board?
I think so.
Would that be helpful?
I think
I'm
that
not-
that.
Or, you know, I'm just.
I think
It just
that's the
seems
way,
like this is
count-
like
and
watering
council
down
is agreeing, I think
the
that's the
work
way
we've
to
done.
go. That we put language in the covenant saying that if the use is,
If
will
the
change.
farm use is abandoned and they come forward with a residential subdivision, which is probably the highest best use in the property,
Right,
and
right.
permitted under zoning,
then
the
the
planning board shall
covenants,
consider
the covenants
amending
are
the covenants to be appropriate
sunsetted.
with the
Well,
proposal.
Would we
Just-
sunset the covenants?
We could sunset the
Well, just bear in mind that this property
I would
could
leave whatever
sustain.
language is in there that gives you the flexibility to look at it with new eyes, under the new use. We can work out that language.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this property can sustain a single-family house.
It has two houses on it now.
Excuse me?
It has two houses on it now.
Oh, it has
small-
two houses.
two small
Cottage,
houses.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they were-
okay, I thought it was vacant.
They were
Never mind.
built, I think,
Why
like
can't-
60
why-
years ago.
Why can't it sustain a single family?
It can,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
there are
yeah.
two there now.
They can do multiple,
Yeah,
because
but
it's
you
a,
could do-
it's a 9 lots, it's a 9
Yeah.
acre
Oh,
parcel.
no, you'd have to go
Right.
through subdivision
Right,
process.
yes.
Right, and do that,
Yeah.
and use the
You
flag.
can't build any more houses until you go through subdivision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
understood.
and that's something that we don't have plans to do right now,
Right.
but
Mhm.
maybe, one day.
But by saying that, Claire, in terms of the residential, that assumes that the only use would be residential. I'm not saying there's any other use could be used for that property, but that covenant means that I can only bring a residential that would sunset the covenants if a residential application.
We can
came
say
in.
residential or any other allowable use.
That's good,
That's fair, right?
Okay,
that's good.
or any other allowable use.
If you go for a
Yeah, 'cause
variance,
it's
you
a
go for a
zone.
variance, you're
Right.
gonna be subject to, and if you change a zone, you'd have to go to the town board, and that could change everything.
Okay,
You might want to do battery storage, so.
okay.
And-
Take that out of the minutes, please.
Yeah.
I have to throw that in there.
So are we're all in agreement on that, pretty much?
I think that's fair.
Do you want to have, should we, the best way to course to
Let
do
have
it, maybe have
Christine-
your attorney come up with some language
Yeah.
and
We
you
can-
react to
Yeah,
it?
that's fine.
So
Does-
what, us
does
submit
that
some
make
language
sense?
to you?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
so the language, so tell me the language that we're talking about, so I can at least tell him again.
The planning board shall consider sunsetting, is that,
Christine?
I'll
Christine?
I'll
you have
figure it out with
language?
the attorney. I know what you wanna say, we will figure it out with the
You'll work
Okay,
attorney.
it
so
Put you in
I'll have
touch.
my
Yeah.
attorney talk to you then?
Yes.
And they'll work out
One
language.
attorney
Okay.
to the other.
And then because it's, the covenant's not changing, maybe,
No.
then you would not have to amend anything except for the
Exactly,
decision.
exactly.
Right, because you
So-
still have a covenant,
Right.
the intent's still there.
The language should be in the
Yeah.
covenant.
It's almost what he's asking for in the first place that we're coming back to now, which is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from our perspective, we don't want to, give applicants covenants with a bunch of off-ramps on them all the
Sure.
time, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think this language is fair for now.
It's more of a
and the future.
clarification
Right.
of the covenant.
The intent.
So the second part of this, while we go through this process, and we're going into the spring months, I would hate to lose a whole nother season again. Will we be allowed for the farmer, will we have to at least get on the property and start the basic work of prepping the soil so he
We'll
can
come
cover
back
properly?
next week and then we can go from there. And if it's along those lines, I can write something up for next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
And then we can sign the plans and
Okay.
you'll be on
Yeah.
your way.
okay,
Thank you.
good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So no
Oh, and
action.
did you know CDS was off, right?
Yes.
Number 3 was off?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
number 3 is off, so there's no action on this, Claire, right?
No action on the CDS.
Or on Pasanelli. That was
No,
a
on
discussion,
Pastelli, yes.
just
So we
discussed.
just received that amendment he submitted formally for that. And so my
Okay, your
next
next one is loaves and fishes,
Yep, page 63.
53?
page 63.
6-3.
So I think you're aware of this parcel. It's 2252 Montauk Highway. It's immediately adjacent to the inn here. So the deadline for this is the next meeting, but we'd like to get get your feedback, so get the wording
Okay.
correct on this. The applicant's representatives left here in Yoder. So I'm just gonna go through this. Any questions? Stop me.
Good, okay.
Great. So this is the draft, the Fishes 2023. The site plan application is to construct two one-story retail office buildings, 3,000 square feet each, and for a total of 6,000 square feet, and a single-family residence with cross-access to the east on a 1.2 acre parcel situated in the HO zoning district. And so this is the aerial, and this is the site plan for the project, and you can see the two.
Can you make it
smaller
bigger,
buildings.
Claire?
Sure. It should be in your packet
Better.
too, right?
Yeah.
And the building elevations are also included there. There was a previous site plan, actually, there was two previous site plan applications on this. So I did give a little explanation under the sections. But first I want to go through the public comments. They're not complete. It's a 30-day written comment period, so it's till Monday. And so we're just waiting any paper, written submissions on this application. Comments included were they were against a project, neighbor wants to parking buffer adjacent to the residence, additional parking is proposed. Neighbor worked with applicant for previous application, this project is different from previous application. Retail office uses will cause more traffic reports should be required. Variances are not interchangeable, need a new review with the ZBA. Comments received during, and this is what we're waiting for, it ends on Monday. They need a full site plan application, site plan and details with floor plans and elevations, and the long EAF to be submitted. It is an unlisted action. The planning board will require to make a secret determination prior to deeming the site plan application complete. And under 2, I described the two previous applications. In 2009, it was under the name of 2252 Montauk Highway. They were two separate buildings in the front of the sizes noted, and two residences in the rear that were approved. It was not built, but they did receive health department approval to allow the flow to go up to 777 gallons.
Shouldn't we say it was withdrawn? I mean, not built? The applications were.
I don't think they were formally, that one was formally withdrawn.
Second one was.
The second one was. The first one, it just expired, I think. But I can note the second one.
Okay.
And then the current application I described. There's the previous application, there was a special exception for the apartments on the second floor. There's no special exception related to the site plan application. The variances I describe here, so the applicant was representing that this enjoys the ZBA granting the variances, and this is just a modification of the previous plan. That is a determination we need to discuss. So maybe I'll talk to Sean about that, the chief building inspector, and get some determination.
We're dealing with this as a new application, so we're not carrying anything over.
Well, that's ZBA. That's the ZBA, what
Yeah.
the ZBA process will be. I need to double check with the ZBA and or the chief building inspector, who ultimately it's his decision.
Well, the relief runs with the land, right?
Relief runs with the land. Well, let's talk about this issue, since it's a big one.
Hey, Carl.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes.
Carl, identify yourself.
Carl
please.
Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watertown, New York, for the applicant. As Dennis mentioned, variances do run with the land. This variance did specifically note in its writing that it was for that mentioned the buildings of the previous application. But as Claire notes, whether or not the variance here benefits the current application is determination for the building inspector, who determines what the zoning is in the property, as the ZBA is essentially the new zoning on the property, the variance. I would note that the relief that we would need is exactly the same as the relief granted, and that the ZBA would, I think, under due process, equal protection, all those lofty constitutional ideals, I do not think the ZBA would have the ability to deny it for this application when they granted it for a similar one. So again, that's a question for the building department, the building inspector, and counsel to the building department. And I think all Claire was suggesting is that that discussion be commenced with the building department.
Which we probably could get an answer for the next meeting before we
And
adopt this.
if the building inspector is to determine that that the variance, which does run with the land, would also be able to benefit the current proposal, then at that point you're done. If he determines otherwise, we'd have to get a modification of that variance.
Could you briefly
And just,
describe
if I could, just in terms of fairness,
Please.
because I don't know if the other opposition to this application knew this was going to be on today, but as we all know, there is a very strong opposition to the proposition that you just set forth, council, and they would want to be heard on that. So I'm just putting that out there because the board needs to remember that.
Right.
They
I mean, it's
were
my-
heard on that, and it's actually noted in the report that they said the variances are not interchangeable and needs a review
Could you
with the
briefly
ZBA.
describe the relief that was granted that's carrying over?
Sure,
It's under 4.
yeah.
It's number 4, the
Number 4.
variances.
The setbacks.
The ZBA by decision D
Oh, okay,
023. So it was granted the following variances. It was front yard setbacks of 27 and 26, where 30 is required, side yard of 12, where 15 is required. The lot coverage of 22.03%, where 20% is required. I don't think we need that one with the current proposal. And rear yard transition yard for parking of 15 feet, where 50 is required. That is the most,
That's the key,
the key one.
exactly.
But I would note that portion of the property is, the portion of the property that specific relief benefits. This application is identical to the previous application.
Well, again, we muddy the waters when you carry something over from an application that was withdrawn, that's gone, to which was very different from this application. It's apples and oranges. And so whenever we do that, it muddies the water as far as I'm concerned. And you have a new application, you have different setbacks, they're not exactly the same, even though you say they are. I mean, I have some real difficulty with carrying over a ZBA variance. If it runs with the land, why is it even an issue? I don't think it does. It runs with that application with the land, but not with this application. It's in my mind, it's quite clear. I differ, and so, because one of the issues that I think on this property is the packing of all of the parking on that north side of the property where you take the luxury of putting a fountain in the middle, when in fact you can increase the buffer on the north side and reduce the fountain area, or statuary, I guess it's a statue, a round area with a statue. I mean, that's decorative, it's lovely, it's nice, but also there's going to be an impact on that north side of the property. And you're right up against, 15 feet?
15 feet.
Yeah.
Carl, have you spoken to council for the neighbors along that? Because if you all, without this argument of the variance, whether or not it's still in existence based on the fact that this has changed, if you all work it out, I think that would also demonstrate to the board that maybe there's not such an issue with the variance as it sits right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the terms under which that buffer were agreed to previously, and it was agreed to, and I say that term, not that agreement was needed, but it was reached and ultimately led to the granting of the variance. The conditions were the same as they are now. There was a covenant that was going to be required by the zoning board, which we would submit to as well here, that put that neighbor in support of the variance relief, of the relief being requested before the ZBA. Again, that neighbor, as far as the impact to that neighbor, that area is exactly the same. It's the same home, it's the same parking layout.
No, I'm just suggesting that without getting into the merits of this, because they obviously feel very differently for whatever reason, I don't know who's right or wrong, but the point is, if you guys could maybe speak to it together and work it out prior to this becoming an issue, more so than it needs to be, then that would be good.
Of course we'll speak to it.
That's all.
Yeah. That's fine. And I think this discussion point, I think it is as Claire suggested, I think it is the province of the building department to determine what zoning exists on this yard, and if they feel that that zoning, and that variance did specifically note the previous application, so they may very well feel that it doesn't apply to this application.
Right,
in
but
spite
in
of our
either
argument.
event, some party's not gonna be happy, one will be aggrieved, and potentially will, as both have counsel, will probably institute an action. So my suggestion would be, if you guys can work it out prior to it having to get to that point, it might be a good idea. That's all, it's up to you guys.
If necessary, we
Yeah.
would do that, yes.
See, the problem with the determination by the building inspector is that then this determination is then challengeable at the ZBA.
Sure.
So that constitutes another action. Whereas either it is or, I mean, I can't, I can't see why it wouldn't carry forward with the land. More a legal issue? As opposed to the.
I would have to spend the time going
So
through. I
the-
haven't done that. They have counsel. I'm not here. I'm just counseling this board, which we're really kind of out of it.
But it's a different application. So the variance that was in the ZBA, saw the documentation of this other application. I mean, that's off the table. It's out of our consideration. We now have a new application, totally different.
But the question is, and it's a question, is whether these variants created new setbacks on this lot that apply to everything going forward.
Right, I mean, logically, to my mind, I don't know about legally, but logically, how can they?
Like a change of use, it would be different than like a setback, which does have to do with exactly what the site plan or, intent is. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's a
we're
matter
not
of the
even-
letter of the law,
Generally
what it says,
speaking,
right?
variances do run with the land, regardless, whatever. I think the argument that they're making, and again, I don't know the facts of this specifically because I wasn't involved, but my understanding is that they are questioning the validity of that happening in this case because that variance being granted was specifically as an outcome of what those hearings
Right.
concluded and deliberated.
Right.
So but I can't speak to that. That's why I'm encouraging them to speak to it. So, but we would proceed as we're proceeding.
Is there any clarity
by
on
raising it?
On a variance that was with an application, but the application never actually came to fruition in terms of building on the parcel?
Variances generally run with the land.
Yeah.
You would
You
have
have
to,
a
I would have to do
resolution?
some research into under what conditions they wouldn't
Right.
run with the land, but
Only if the
I'm happy to do
ZBA
that.
puts, links the relief to
Yeah,
that
and
specific
it
use,
might,
which in this
and it
case, I
might.
don't think they
I don't
did.
They did, and you'll see it. They specifically mentioned the old use. So that's why
Okay, so
I
then
think it
that's
needs
why-
to be
yeah,
investigated.
yeah.
And that's why this
Right.
is a discussion.
Okay, and
Yes.
so the discussion that I have with this property, and I know it well, because I just live right around the corner, is that there is an opportunity to increase the buffer. It's not like you've built it. You have an opportunity with a slight revision in your site plan, which is to reduce the statuary circular, take some space from there, and add it to the buffer on the north side. That's, would be my strong recommendation. And I can understand how, it's very narrow on the north side. You've got the driveway in, and then you've got that property. And so I would say consider that.
Certainly. If we are required to go back to the ZBA, we will. It's that simple. And again, I think our position to the ZBA would be, it's going to be hard for you to have granted this relief for one project and denied it for a subsequent.
That'll be
And that's our position.
That'll be your position
But again,
and
that's
your
not the concern of
argument.
this board. It's what zoning
Right.
applies. Yeah.
But that ZBA relief to a 15-foot setback is germane to this application.
Yes. And I understand.
You get it,
I get
right?
it, yes.
Otherwise, I mean, I think the proposal is fine. 3,000 square foot buildings is smaller, it's a less intense use, less traffic,
Less noise,
less
everything.
noise, less impact on butter, for sure. Because there was an access on butter with the prior application, so that curb cut's totally closed up.
In layman's terms, if there's anything we can do to increase buffer for those neighbors being
Yes.
mostly impacted, I think it would be really neighborly
Yeah.
to try.
We're picking up what you're putting down.
Because that's also the exit. That is the exit, Carl. It's the main exit from all of this. Restaurant, office building, so
Well,
there's
the
a,
exit seems to maintain that.
there's a lot of, yeah, but there's a lot of traffic going through here, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the traffic flow seems to be south of that buffer. It's just really the parking.
Yeah, there is a grassy area between the buffer and where the traffic would be. It's just the parking, exactly. The lanes are another 20 feet south or so.
How many parking spaces on this, Carl?
36,
Yes, 36.
All
So
required?
you just meet the parking requirement.
just meet it.
Okay.
We're asking for exemption from 2 because of the cross-access.
What are the dimensions of the spaces, do you know?
The specific dimension.
Oh, they're either
They're
9 by
code.
20 or 10 by 18.
Okay. If
Yeah.
they're 9 by 20 and you go to 10 by 18,
You lose parking.
you lose a parking space, but you go a little wider and you've just got 2 more feet of your buffer.
Full.
Well, if you do it on the south and the north, like, if you make them all 10 by 18 and see if you could squeeze them in, you're gonna save a few feet that way.
But we might lose required parking.
I think you could go a
But
little
you have,
wider.
the planning board has the ability to
To
even
vary the
waive more
parking.
parking.
Yeah, what that we could do.
So if it's a space or two,
Yeah, but if we're only gaining 2 feet in a buffer, what good is that, from 15 to 17 feet?
You could gain 4 feet if you do your top 2 rows.
these two
That's not a
rows.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
right.
And this could be
Is
tightened
that
up
a
a little
5-foot
bit.
sidewalk there or a 4-foot sidewalk?
Yeah.
Could look squeezing a
And
couple.
have we
Maybe
even
getting 25
identified
foot,
any,
20 foot.
any planting areas here?
Oh, yes, there's an extensive landscape plan, which we'll look at.
In the parking, in that parking row, there's planting?
There is plantings.
Come
Oh, I think I
around, go to the
attached it. Hold on. Ta-da. I did not. But I have a landscape plan. Landscape plan. That's what this is. You can see that the row of evergreens here, and then the screening here for the parking for the fronts.
What is our code, Claire? Every 10 spaces is a planted, what is the code?
Code is if you're over 50 parking spaces, you would have interior.
Interior. Has to be
So
over 50.
there is some interior here that would count.
Mhm.
And this is interior also, so that's what they've got now, but yeah, they don't, it's not a requirement in this case, but it would be nice to break up this row here
Mhm.
a little bit, so. I'll talk to Carl, we'll see if we can pick up
Okay.
some feet on a buffer.
Sure.
With this, okay?
Anything else, Carl, on the report?
No, we agree with everything. The rest is pretty straightforward.
The architecture's good, right? The
Oh, yeah.
architecture? Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it worked out really well.
Always, I mean, everything in that whole complex is beautiful.
Okay, so I'm gonna tighten this up and get an answer from, the chief,
The chief.
and we'll see how that goes, and then I'll bring it back with any public comments that we receive in meantime for the next
Great.
meeting. So no
Thanks.
action.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So when's the next meeting?
23rd.
Have a good day, everybody.
Stay
Thank
well.
you, Carl. Claire, you have Sabonic Cottage,
I do,
19.
that is number,
19.
page 118.
118.
This is a completeness. I was going to schedule this for, April 13th. Do we have time, do we have space on that?
That's the jammed one? I don't know.
No, that's,
Carrie?
it's jammed because of what we're setting at today.
No, today. Do we have one for Savannah Cottage on that? Do we have one?
This would be the fourth, because Anthony changed one.
Okay, so this would be the 4th. Do you have any setting date for the 13th?
Yes, I'm sorry, it'll be 5.
So 5, does that make sense? Is 5 okay for that night? Or you want to do the 27th? I just don't want to jam up the 27th.
What's the 27th look like?
The 27th is the only one right now.
I'd put it on the 27th.
We can do this to the 27th. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So complete and schedule a hearing for
April
27. Motion
Motion?
by Craig, second
I'll second.
by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And Claire, then you have site plan, the 720 Butter Lane.
Yes, that's an extension of the deadline for submission of plans for 90 days.
Motion.
So that's to what, do we have a date for that?
Yeah, that would be June 15th.
So extension to June 15th. Motion by Dennis, second
Second.
by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then the acknowledged by signature for the wireless.
Yes, Claire, double
Thank
check and see if I missed a page.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
I might have, because they were stamped in funny places.
Okay.
Jeff, I guess you're up. So number 5, the National Golf Links. Just give us the page reference in the packet.
You got 29.
Let me just open it up real quick. All right, so we're going to start number 5, National Golf Links of America Turf Barn. It's a review of the pre-submission conference report.
Page 29.
Yes, page 29.
Thank you.
And 36 is the report. Page 36.
All right. In the meantime, let me go over this, because I do not see my attachment here. I'll go over the project description and go over some notes and concerns to the board's, bring those notes and concerns to the board's attention. The applicant's representative is also here. Pre-submission date was January 12th, 2023. The site plan application is to construct a 5,100 square foot single-story wood frame metal storage barn with slab on grade, 9 storage bays, and a proposed drainage system in an existing turf care area for the purpose of storing golf course equipment. It's located on 184 acres, located in R120 zoning district, located at 129 Sabonic Inlet Road, Hamlet of Tuckahoe. Pre-submission conference was held January 12th. No public comments, no public interest. A 30-day written comment period was provided. That written comment period did not garner any public interest as well. Some review and some issues, not necessarily issues, but concerns that we want to make sure we clarify. It is located in the New York State archaeological sensitive area at the site plan application stage. We'll determine whether or not any additional archaeological study would be required. I believe they've done a pretty substantial study on that for any previous projects, so I think we might be fine on that front. The project is listed as an unlisted action, so SECR will need to be completed prior to deeming this application complete at the site plan application stage, of course. Proposed landscaping, if you're familiar with the golf course, it is pretty far north, in the North Sea area. There's not really much through traffic, and the structure itself is not visible from the street. But if the board would like some additional screening, you can always recommend that, of course. Lighting, of course, again, not visible from the street, also in the area not necessarily frequented by residents. I did add to the plan some questions regarding material, which would obviously go in front of the ARB once referred during the site plan application stage. But the area that's currently being proposed is a makeshift parking area. So if there's additional parking that the board would want, the applicant has made it clear the structure itself will essentially compensate for that.
Can you bring it up?
Yes. Let's see if I can pull it up here. So like I mentioned, this area right now is essentially a makeshift parking area for employees of the golf course. It is built into this hill here, adjacent to this materials storage area that's essentially put together by a retaining wall. Again, the storage building structure itself will offer indoor parking, so that should satisfy it.
So each bay is accommodating a vehicle?
So the structure itself actually is larger than what's there, right? It would accommodate for any additional parking. I think the idea was to offer that in addition to any equipment utilized by the golf course itself. So it should satisfy that and more with these 9 bays.
But that's not really providing parking for employees, it's there right now.
Right now, no. It's not necessarily a bona fide parking area. It's being used as such, but it wasn't essentially part of the original site plan. They just utilized that for parking.
I guess what I'm saying that by erecting that building with the bays, that's not gonna be parking for employees. So employees will have to find someplace else to park.
Correct.
On the property.
What is parking in there?
Tony Panza, architect for the applicant, Rogers McGagg Architects. If you could just go back to the site plan, Jeff, for clarification. There's no employee parking in that location there. If you remember this project from some years back, that L-shaped building is the turf care building. The one on the left is the environmental building. Over to the right, just off the screen, is the staff housing. So you can see where the employee parking is between the staff housing and the turf care building. Everything that happens back in that asphalt area, that's the courtyard. That's all for turf equipment. So the equipment that you see parked alongside the building, and some of it is hidden underneath the blue, this is equipment that the club is looking to put inside.
It's inside that building.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and I think, sorry, when we had the public hearing, Jackie, I believe you weren't at that one, so you might be seeing this new. The building is being tucked into the hillside. The white roof that you see there is the main roof that blocks everyone that could possibly see this building from Sabonic Inlet Road, although the trees and the hillside block the previous building that was approved. So the only chance that you have of seeing that building is if you were playing golf, and no one on the golf course wants to see it, which is why we're tucking it into the hillside, and the trees and everything are behind it. And the finishes on that building are identical to the other buildings that were approved.
Good. Yeah, I think parking was the only question we had.
Right.
So you've got a good area there for your employees on the other side of that.
Thank you. Expanding the area made it clear.
Yeah. And just to touch upon what Jeff was mentioning before, we did a substantial archaeological investigation when this project came up, which was the whole entire area, and that's why we've selected that area there because we know that it's a previously disturbed area and it's also in the area that when we came by for this project, that we were allowed to build here.
What about the mechanicals? Are you going to have any mechanicals on the roof? No.
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 No, this is intended to be dry storage for vehicles that are outside. Our preference is just to heat it to about 50 degrees because some of the engines are diesel engines. And we'll actually be doing that with radiant in the slab so
Nice.
that we're not looking at having boilers and everything.
So you're number 6, Jeff?
Correct. So number 6, actually, if you don't mind, could we jump to? Can we jump to number 11, which is also another turf barn, also represented by Mr. Panza?
Are we
No, we
completed?
still,
No.
we meant.
We're still
Oh,
on
you're
this.
saying that, okay,
Item
I
six.
I thought you wanted to move on, okay.
No. I said number 6, you
Number
have,
5, actually, we're number 5.
No.
No,
On
in
your
your
list.
condition.
under
Oh,
your
I'm sorry.
preliminary review issues, you have
Yes,
number 6,
number-
mechanicals on the roof and on the ground will be required to be screened.
If there are any.
There's no air
Yeah.
conditioning and
But,
there's
I
nothing
mean,
on the roof.
it's a condition, if it's, if you ever add, at least we know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just stored, no plumbing, no,
No plumbing. All of the plumbing is in the other building.
What would you use for the radiant propane?
Yes. And that's on the site plan. It would be just to the north of the building tank. There's no natural gas out there.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay.
good location for
What
solar.
do we have to do, adopt the pre?
So we're
So,
going
uh,
to adopt this
So yeah,
report.
I'd like to move to adopt this pre-app report, or excuse
Yeah.
me, pre-submission conference report.
Yeah. Motion by Kate, second by
Second.
Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, now,
That was number 11.
now we can go to number 11.
That's the Atlantic Golf, another turf barn.
Another
Stay
turf
where you
barn.
are. And what page is that?
And this one's located on page 70.
70?
Yes, 70.
Okay. These golf courses keep
All
you
right.
busy.
Pre-submission conference was also held on January 12th, 2023. This project is located at the Atlantic Golf Club, 1040 Scuttle Hole Road, Hamlet Bridge, Bridgehampton. The site plan application is to construct a 1,254 square foot addition, reconstruction of an existing 3,633.25 square foot storage building. Increase roof line, I'm sure you'll notice that that's left blank. Increase roof line by 1 foot at the ridge is what I'm adding to that. After further discussion with Mr. Panza and some clarifications on that front. It also includes a proposed employee bathroom, installation of an IA sanitary system, replacement of an aging slab, and replacement of an existing 792 square foot gravel driveway with 5,150 square foot of permeable stone pavers and a proposed asphalt driveway to the south of the proposed barn. It's located on a 204-acre parcel. Pre-submission conference held no public interest, no public comments. Also, a 30-day public comment period. Garnered no additional comments from the public. The topics that I wanted to focus on that I added.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Yes.
Do you have the report? I can't find the report in here. It's not in the
not-
packet. Do you have any copies?
I don't have any copies.
Do you want me to make a copy for you? Print it out?
Yeah. Don't mind it.
No, not at all.
And Dave, I just bringing up the site plan.
Sure.
It's,
We have the site plan.
yeah, but it's kind of difficult, yes.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah. And zoom,
There we go.
Big as possible, Jeff. We can't see you.
I know the subject property is pretty large.
Right, so just zoom in on the,
I have an 11 by 17s if anyone wants them.
Okay,
He'll make it.
There we go, that's fine.
there,
There we go. Okay.
perfect, perfect.
We had a brief discussion regarding the changes to the subject property. The application itself was referred to conservation. I believe the applicant representative had conversations with the Conservation or Environment Division regarding the reconfiguration of the the parking area, also the new material being installed. The only concerns that I wanted to point out, concerning that they are proposing a bathroom, that the site plan application is submitted with Health Department approval. Also, this is in a New York State archaeological sensitive area, so the same concerns regarding whether a Phase 1B would be required or if the existing archaeological study will satisfy that. And I believe that's it. Parking, again, is essentially being satisfied here. Looks like they're even expanding the parking area and making the parking area a little bit more environmentally friendly, as we discussed in our previous hearing. Also an unlisted action under SECRA, so it should be completed prior to deeming the application complete at the site plan application stage. Similar to the previous application, any mechanicals on the roof or on the ground, we're requesting that they be at least screened. The applicant is requesting that no public hearing at the site plan application stage is also be required due to lack of interest in our current pre-submission stage. But if there's any other concerns, questions from the board that they'd like to add here, I did a site inspection myself to see how proximity to the street. The applicant provided us with a diagram to show how many feet. Looks like it's about 510 feet to the property line, and that's effectively Scuttle Hole Road. But the existing structure right now is barely visible from the street. I don't believe it requires any additional screening, as it is being built into the hillside as well. But there is a change in the size, obviously, with the addition, plus the second floor has a 1 foot increase in height at the ridge. It's not consistent through the height of the actual structure, but at the ridge is where the 1 foot itself is more apparent.
Have you considered solar in this kind of an environment, this kind of a roof? Looks,
So this is a cedar-shaped roof, and given other applications that we've had before the board, this area is considered this view shed area. This barn being part of that, so that's why we want to replicate the way it is. I don't think we would come before you to put solar on top of it. One of the images that, that's in the packet, I can hand it around to you, it's the existing and the proposed, and we're basically trying to keep that view the way that it is. We're just raising the ridge up.
Let me have that, we'll pass it around.
I have a couple. The first one there is the existing, and then the second page is the proposed.
Thanks. Is it existing? And this is proposed.
Yeah, you can see it's set back way behind the house.
Mhm.
We wouldn't propose any screening because it's not screened now, and I think it's part of the idyllic landscape of seeing the barn.
So from Scuttle Hole, you can see it? No?
Yeah, that's taken from, you can see the asphalt there, it's taken from Scuttle Hole.
Mhm.
Thank you. Similar to the previous one where this is, currently it stores equipment. If you go around the property, you'll see other equipment that's out, not in a building. So by putting the addition onto it, which is in the view you had there towards the left into the hill, we can get that equipment inside the building. And then we're just adding a bathroom to this. There is no bathrooms on the golf course. for staff, and the turf, the main building at this club is back across the driveway. So we're just trying to make it a little bit easier for staff to use a bathroom.
And you've done an archaeological review way back when you started, right?
1989 to 90, there was one that was done, and it was very specific for this area because of the green and the golf hole that comes right down there. And also, as you probably, I don't think anyone would remember from then, but the house and that's in these views, that's the barn, that's the farmhouse. So this was all part of the farm.
So it's been done, Joe.
Yeah.
Any lighting? Well, we'll just submit
We have to
that, yeah.
have, at the 3 man doors, we're required to have a light. It's dark sky. It would just be shielded fully down.
Mechanicals, same?
No.
No radiant?
This one, sorry, would have the radiant, but otherwise there's no air conditioning or anything. It's just for storing mechanical, just for the equipment.
Okay.
And just to go over the discussions with, we had brought Marty out, because we always do whenever it's anything to do with Shorts Pond, and the area where you see that kind of bubbly hatch, it's dirt, it's rock, we don't know what it is, it's just always been that way. That runs toward Shorts Pond, so when I met with Marty, I said, what would you like us to do? And he asked for permeable pavers, and the club was, well, it's fine, because we can cut down on dust.
Great. Any other questions?
I'd like to move to adopt this
Adopt the report,
pre-submission report.
Motion?
Motion.
By Dennis, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move to number 12 in the packet, which is on page 80.
You use a different typeface, Jeff, than everybody else.
Some of the application restricts you sometimes on some of the older resolutions. I can't go in and change it.
You can change it.
Yeah, so anything new,
Yeah.
I can alter. but
Well, it's a
anything
clear
old-
Helvetica, it's good.
So I'm passing around some pictures
Okay.
and a letter submitted by the applicant as well.
Take one and pass them along, right?
Got it.
I think it's left over from,
So I'll remind the board, this application was before us about a month ago. The applicant was previously approved to build and construct a agricultural barn. They are requesting modification. They had relocated the sanitary system about 344 feet from the delineated wetlands boundary. 230 feet was required or proposed. The southwest corner of the barn, 88.3 feet is currently where the barn is situated, and 90 feet is what was proposed.
Jeff, please put something up on the screen
Sure,
for
sure.
us.
This is the original site plan. Nope, excuse me, this is the as-built site plan.
Oh, this is the barn.
Correct. So they were given previous approval for construction of the barn and wetlands approval also for construction of the barn. These changes were made where the barn itself was built, looks like about 2 feet closer to this southwest corner of the property, and also relocation of the proposed sanitary system is now built further away from the wetlands boundary, which was acceptable for the Conservation Board. we had an issue with whether or not, or a concern more so, with whether or not this property itself is being farmed. So some additional information was requested. So in the handout I gave you was a submission from the applicant, a letter from the applicant's farmer, which is, I believe, listed as Harry Ludlow, confirming his participation on this site. And also, it should be a diagram of how they lay out the site and what's being farmed, to provide the board a little bit more information and whether or not we can proceed with the modification. The pictures in there are my site inspection pictures. I'll give everyone a moment to go through the material.
So Harry Ludlow is farming this?
Correct. The applicant's representatives here can add to that if they like.
And it sounds more like he was contracted to assist with farming, I think.
Wayne, come have a seat.
For the record, Wayne Bruin, O'Shea Marcinski Bruin, on behalf of the applicants. So if you recall, a few years back when this was approved, this was an ag reserve in the original subdivision of Wheaton Estates, and at some point, Carol Connor had sold it, and since the time she sold it, it was not farmed, and it actually reverted to successional field growth and cedar trees of substantial size. And our clients decided that they wanted to farm it, and actually went in and cleared, and that caused a stir with many of the neighbors, as you can imagine, some of which liked the cedar trees, others didn't. But we made peace. In fact, we had to eliminate many encroachments where their fences were encroaching and dumping and things using. But we then eventually came back to the planning board. Harry Ludlow was engaged or hired or leasing the property and started getting into farmability, various crops, and more importantly now they've engaged others they've done fruit trees, which have been planted, as you can see in the correspondence. And the building was built. Everything has been inspected by the building inspector. However, we realized, once the final survey came in, that it wasn't 100% in accordance with your approved site plan. So we made this application, and the changes that Jeff has identified are essentially the changes. The most significant in my mind was that they had relocated the septic system from what is the southerly side of the building to the easterly side, and that came sort of from this lot owner over here and the notion that they didn't want somehow a septic system as close to them. The septic system that Jeff had indicated it results in an increase in the setback from the wetlands. This area now is planted, still farmable, so it's all planted. There's some other, little changes. The building ended up being 1.5 feet closer to that corner. They haven't put gravel over the entire parking area. They don't intend, it's a farmer. It's not like a group of people coming here. It's not open to the public or anything like that. It's not a horse facility. So they're the primary changes. They did add a paddock fence. They're trying, keep the incursion. There's also a deer fence that was around, that was approved by this board as well, so.
Sorry, did you say that Harry Ludlow is leasing the property?
He's not leasing, he's hired to farm it, and really, I don't know
Like
what
as a
they
consultant.
pay him. Yeah, he doesn't pay, it's hard to get a farmer to farm. So he gets the benefit, he's been farming it, so.
So we're here to approve the changes to the site
Yes,
plan? Is that what
correct.
we're doing? Okay.
And that will enable us to get a
Move forward.
CO for the building, which I think, Jeff, you were out to the site, right?
Correct.
And
Oh,
acknowledged
that's
all these
good.
changes?
Yes, it is consistent with the,
Okay,
Some of them are positive.
with exception of the modifications, of course.
yeah. Any further comment?
I'll move it.
Move by Dennis to accept the,
To approve the revised.
approve the
site
revised, thank you.
plan. Thanks.
To approve the revised site plan. Motion by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, thanks
Thank you.
Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne.
All right, so
Okay,
we'll proceed.
13,
Yeah, agenda item 13, located on page 87 in your packet. This application is before us for completeness. They're at the final application stage for a 2-lot subdivision on an existing developed lot, lot number 2 of the subdivision, map of the estate of Charles Van de Veer Jr. The total project area is 5.693 acres. In the zoning district is CR 80, the property located at 85 Daly Lane. I'll bring up the site plan for you.
This is it.
I'm making a motion to deem the application incomplete. As per the pre-application report that was adopted by the board, they were required to submit a short form EAF, which they didn't. The application set also was missing some key elements on a standard map itself. The ag statement also is not signed, so there's a few elements of the application that's just incomplete, unfortunately.
anybody here to represent it or no?
No. I spoke with the applicant, and they're working on getting the required material.
Okay, motion to deem this incomplete by George, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And then, pre-application completeness, Alec Huffnagel.
Huffnagel's new
Huffnagel.
application.
What
And this-
page is that?
This one's on page 96 in your packet.
96.
This is an existing lot, just off of Little Noyak Path. They are, let's see if I can flip this for you. So this current lot has a wooded area here, which is labeled as lot number 2. It's developed with a single-family dwelling along with the pool and the believed garage as well. Deeming the application complete is consistent with our requirements for a pre-application for subdivision. I'd like to schedule this one also for public hearing on the 13th, I believe. 27th.
27th.
April 27th.
April 27th.
No, 23rd.
April
Is that
27th.
April 27th?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, April 27th.
Not 23rd is, this
Oh, I'm
month.
thinking March, okay.
The following month.
That looks like a-
Okay, motion to deem this complete and schedule a public hearing for the 27th by Craig.
Second.
Second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
All right, so we'll move along to
Zarabi,
Robbie.
number 21.
21 on page 125.
125.
You might remember this is a 3-lot subdivision that is at the final application stage. There are a number of conditions as part of the final approval. This is essentially on an action deadline. Their final approval expires tomorrow, March 10th. The applicant's requesting a 90-day extension. Looks like they were given about 25 conditional items to complete. I've been in contact with the applicant's representative. If she has any questions, she can come up, of course. I've spoken with engineering. They've received their final map as well, which is under review. They've submitted legal documents for review and obviously for revisement. But it looks like they're pretty much nearing their final state and ready for signature. So we're just requesting and moving that the board approves the 90-day extension.
That takes us to where?
That takes us to, I'll tell you.
June something, right?
June 10th, 2023.
June 10th. Okay.
We gave him a list of 25 conditions?
Not me. I think Jackie gave her a list of 25
Okay.
items to complete.
How are they doing on the list?
It looks like we're down to about 3 items.
Oh.
Hi.
Hey, Daphne.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning. Yeah, we had quite a number of things that we had to address. Part of the delay in this was that we had to clean up the open space parcel and put up that split rail fence around it, which took quite some time to get accomplished. So that's all been done. Jeff came out and inspected it back in December. I have submitted a final map, my legal documents. We're just basically trying to do all the last minute items to get this thing filed. My client is very eager to get that completed as soon as possible, so I am doing the best that I can to get that done. So I'm just seeking your
Great.
assistance in that.
Thank you. Good. So motion to extend to June 10th?
Motion.
Motion by Kate, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
All 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And we'll move
You have
to,
agricultural fencing?
this is the last item. Number 22 is located on page 127. The map for you. This piece, I'm sure most of the board should be familiar with. This is at the cross-section of David White's Lane and also Seven Ponds Road.
Corner piece, yeah.
You're right, there was a
Yeah.
major fire at that
Animal
number
Wall.
5.
That was Animal Wall's
Yeah.
house, yeah.
And which is now used for farming, and also has been dedicated to town for farming. The applicant is requesting agricultural fencing consistent with our design standards for the wire mesh, posts, wood posts. They're also proposing let me bring this up again. They're also proposing a utility gate at the far north corner, northwest corner of the property. The gate would be about 20 feet wide, consistent with your usual agricultural gate. They did provide, I think in the packets, there are samples of what they are proposing to install. Again, consistent with our standards with regard to agricultural fencing. It's 1 foot off of the property line. Let me see here.
Jeff, who's the owner? Is the town the owner?
Yeah.
So yes, both lots were transferred via development rights to the town and are used as agricultural. You can remark these areas are pretty much farmed.
So they're being leased to a farmer?
Correct. They're being leased to a farm. What I'm accustomed to seeing is corn, rows of corn being farmed there for the most part. It's not necessarily cultivated as of today, of course, but I think it is confirmed that this area has been consistently farmed throughout the years.
This parcel is of a high public visibility.
Very visible.
Yes.
And the town is applying to fence this in. I mean, essentially, the public is stepping forward to cage this property in that was acquired with public money, so, I think it needs it might warrant a higher level of review.
Sure.
Possibly a public hearing, I don't know. You guys all know the parcel, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. But it is being farmed?
Yes, it is being
I
farmed.
don't think you can farm anything today without a deer fence. That's
Not
the
deer
problem.
fencing? I don't know, I see
It's
them all
deer
over.
fencing,
There's no
right?
way.
Yeah, deer fencing, 8-foot deer fencing.
I see agricultural fields all over with that. A certain type of products require deer fencing.
Sure, and you're not wrong as far as that's concerned. This one is pretty open
It's
to the
very
public.
visible.
Very visible, which does open them up to deer or any other, whether it be trash or whatnot. So I'm fine. if
Are
you
there
guys-
agricultural products that are deer resistant, like potatoes or?
That I'm not aware of.
They do fruit, like just a little further down. It's all fruit related,
It's
What
fruit,
was
they're
that?
planting fruit?
like apples, peaches.
Yeah, well, they'll love that, apples.
Well, maybe
There
this
are a
isn't
lot
the
of deer there.
location for apple,
I
for
live there, there's a lot of
fruit
deer.
farming, because of its proximity, its visibility, I don't know, the fact that the public essentially the public is stepping forward to do this, and I don't know that the public is aware of it, and they might have something to say about it.
No, that's a legitimate concern.
So we can schedule a public hearing?
Sure.
Yeah, with the sign and everything else.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
yeah. So we'll do that.
So we'll schedule a public hearing.
And so we'll do it for April 20, April.
20
Here.
or May?
For April 13th.
Well, we're not on any time constraint, you
No.
wanna put
No,
this
we're
into May?
definitely not.
Put it in May.
Add this for the 20th.
You wanna put this into May, when perhaps
The
more
first one in
people,
May.
more people around?
First one in May.
Yeah.
So who is
To see the- to see the white
applicant?
sign?
Is the farmer?
Is the town the applicant here?
Town is
Right.
the applicant.
No.
Farmer the applicant?
Farmer's
The
the-
farmer's the applicant, yes.
And who was the farmer?
The town had
Offhand, I can't remember
the
offhand.
town had to sign an owner's
Might be far
endorsement.
They did. I'll let you know in a second, actually. Let me see.
You can add it for the 27th, because that will be for.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they probably need time to plan accordingly to get farming this season.
Sure.
You know,
So they would want to get it up.
it might be useful to have whoever, Corwith or
course, this
whoever's
is not
leasing it
visible.
to be present at the next meeting.
I'll make sure the applicant, the farmer essentially is present. I don't have the applicant's name, but they are the farmers.
Okay, so we're deeming it complete and scheduling a public hearing for April 27th. And that's
So who's
for-
responsible for the noticing and everything else, the town or the
It's gonna be the applicant.
applicant?
April 27th.
April 27th. And that's it. So motion to adjourn?
We're doing it.
Walk on. Uh-oh.
Yes, I have one walk-on. This is for Van Tassel. This was at our last public hearing. The applicant's representative, for some reason, had an issue connecting via Zoom. He had also had an issue with
This is Jim Hume.
sinus, yes. So we have to schedule another public hearing. This is the one that had already
You're
set
on
a
for
date
the 13th, right?
Correct, for April 13th. So proposing that date for Van Tassel two-lot subdivision.
Okay, so a motion to schedule the Van Tassel,
Motion.
pre-app for April 13th. Motion by George, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. That's it. Motion to adjourn, did we do that? Motion to adjourn by Craig, second by
Second.
Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Feel better, Jack?